Well, hello friends, and welcome to today's video. Today we are going to be doing another installment in my series where we go through the top urban legends by state. And today we are going to be headed up to the mountains of West Virginia. Virginia is filled with a lot of lore. There's a lot of dense forests, a lot of abandoned places, and just a lot of stories that have been passed down from generation to generation. So there is a lot we could discuss. I did have to pick just the top few legends. I feel like West Virginia though is one of those states again that I could make multiple videos on because there is just so much lore. So for this video, we're going to be talking about the top 3 urban legends that seem to have the most information out about them online. But if you would like me to continue this discussion with West Virginia, like we were talking about with Connecticut, please let me know because there is so much lore we could get into. There is just so much history in West Virginia and so many things that we could discuss. Sorry if you hear my dogs clicking, they will not sit down. Anytime I get up to film, they are like everywhere. So sorry about that. But anyway, let's just get into it. These are going to be the top 3 urban legends from West Virginia. Now, we wouldn't be able to talk about West Virginia urban legends without bringing up the Mothman. So I'm going to go over kind of like a brief synopsis of the Mothman in this video, but the Mothman itself could have a whole video or video series dedicated to just that creature specifically. There is literally so much information and so much lore and just different stories about the Mothman and eyewitness accounts. I mean, there's been so many documentaries and like movies even made about the Mothman. So we could do a deep dive as well. This is not going to be that. This is just going to be like the general overview, but please let me know if you'd want to hear about that. That is like a super popular piece of folklore that has been discussed for many, many years. If you want a more deep dive style video into the Mothman, just let me know. So like I said, the Mothman could be arguably one of the most, if not the most famous cryptid in America. And the story does begin in November of 1966, just outside the small town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. So late one evening, there were these 2 young couples and they were driving near an old World War II, that's so hard to say, old World War II munitions facility that was known as the TNT area. Now, during World War II, a little bit of backstory, this area had been used to manufacture explosives. And after the war, this area was pretty much abandoned and it just was concrete bunkers, some overgrown roads, and a lot of these like domed storage buildings that were just scattered kind of all throughout the woods. Now, as they drove through this abandoned area, they noticed something that was standing near one of these old buildings. And at first they thought it was just kind of like a taller gentleman or like a tall man. But then the man, or what they thought was a man, moved and they discovered it was something seemingly a lot more sinister than just an ordinary man standing by some abandoned buildings, okay? It moved, and it was at that point that this creature was reportedly around 7 feet tall, they said, with these enormous wings that folded behind its back. They also said that it had glowing red eyes that reflected in their headlights of their car. So after seeing this, of course, the couples that were there really panicked and ended up trying to speed away, drive away as fast as they could from this creature. They had no idea what it was at this point. They were just utterly terrified and were trying to get out of there as fast as they could. But according to these couples, the creature then suddenly spread its wings and took off after the car. The wings have said to have been just like massive and make that big like whooshing sound, you know, like whoosh whoosh when like a big bird is like flapping its wings. It was like kind of like that, but they were like insect wings, not bird wings. The couples also said as they were driving away, this creature literally kept pace with them and they were hitting almost 100 miles per hour speed in their car, and this creature was able to keep up like it was no problem at all. And then eventually the creature just disappeared into the darkness. So they went back to town and they started talking about this, and the news of this creature really started to just take off and spread like wildfire. Then over the course of the next year or so, there was over 100 people that claimed they had seen the same creature. So there was like literally over 100 sightings. And these weren't just random witnesses. All kinds of people were claiming that they saw some sort of creature like this, from police officers to firefighters, business owners, and then just regular residents who had nothing really to gain by coming forward and talking about their eyewitness accounts. All different types of people from all different walks of life were claiming that they had seen this creature. The descriptions that they had were very similar to each other, even with people who had never spoken to each other before. They were all describing this creature the same way or very similarly. Pretty much everyone described this creature as a large winged humanoid-like creature with creepy red eyes. Some people even said it could fly straight upward without even flapping its wings. Of course, it could fly at very high speeds and just overall was very terrifying. Other people even said it literally made no sound at all, and a lot of residents or just people in general, their pets refused to go near the TNT area where it was first sighted by those two couples. A lot of people also claimed that electronic devices would glitch or malfunction after seeing this creature as well. And get this, other people even claimed that like upon seeing this creature or afterwards, they experienced this overwhelming feeling of dread. They would have horrific night terrors or nightmares, and some people even said they would get these weird visits from these mysterious men that were dressed in black suits, and they were asking unusual questions about their experience, which obviously it's giving Men in Black. Ultimately, no one could explain what these eyewitnesses were seeing. Some people tried to explain it away as a giant owl that was just mistaken for something else in the darkness. Some people said it could have been like an unusually large sandhill crane, which we do have those here in Florida, and I can't really, like, I've seen many of them in person. They're very common, and I really can't imagine people confusing a Mothman humanoid creature for a sand crane. Like, they're a very distinctive looking animal. And a lot of people said that the sand cranes don't typically even match the creature's size that they reported seeing. And then, of course, a lot of people did actually believe that something far more sinister and stranger was going on. Think like demons or things like that. Basically, everyone agreed that this Mothman was not simply just some sort of animal. They felt like it had malicious intent. It filled them, of course, with these terrifying feelings and just overall did not seem like something good. Many people also thought it was a warning because many terrible things started to happen after these sightings. So the Silver Bridge in West Virginia was a bridge that connected Point Pleasant, West Virginia to this town in Ohio called Gallipolis. I'm so sorry if I'm saying that wrong. But this bridge connected the two towns. And on December 15th, 1967, the Silver Bridge was packed with holiday traffic, very full of cars. It was just packed to the brim. And then without any sort of warning or any indication that there was danger, the bridge just ended up collapsing. Now, obviously this is a bridge and a lot of bridges are over water, and this one was. So cars basically started just plunging into the Ohio River, which was freezing cold at the time due to it being December, of course. And 46 people unfortunately ended up losing their lives that day due to the bridge's collapse. Now, the cause was eventually traced to the failure of a single suspension component called an I-bar. I did have to do a little bit of research on this. I had no idea what that was. But this was basically a small manufacturing defect, and it had grown and grown and grown over decades, going, without any maintenance, or I don't even know if anybody knew that this was an issue until it had catastrophic results. When that one critical piece failed, the entire bridge gave away. It was truly a devastating engineering disaster, and it actually changed bridge safety inspections across the entire United States after this happened. And now, for many residents of Point Pleasant, the tragedy would end up becoming linked to these strange Mothman sightings that had begun, like I said, just 13 months earlier. So people were directly correlating these sightings with this tragedy. And there was another unsettling detail that fueled this even further. After the bridge collapsed, reports of Mothman sightings basically stopped. They completely ended after this. A lot of people claim or are convinced that the Mothman was actually there to try and warn the town of this coming disaster. Almost like the Mothman itself was like having a premonition, was trying to warn people. But some other people believed it actually wasn't a warning at all. It was much more sinister. And instead, they thought that the creature appeared before major tragedies, almost like an omen of death. And now the legend again of the Mothman still lives on today, a lot of it due to this bridge collapsing. The timing of the sightings and the bridge collapse has been a lot of the reason that this legend has been kept alive and is still so prevalent today and so popular, even though it's been almost 60 years. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, Point Pleasant has really embraced this mysterious history. A lot of people visit there every year. Tourists visit there every year for the Mothman Festival, which is a festival that happens in Point Pleasant. And Point Pleasant also has its own Mothman statue, this metallic Mothman statue of the creature in the middle of the town. So the town has really embraced this legend, this cryptid, and a lot of people believe there is a lot of truth behind it. The Mothman truly is one of America's greatest mysteries, and whether you believe it or believe it just to be a myth or made up, the legend is still around. It refuses to go away, and I don't think it will be anytime soon. What do you guys believe? Okay, and for our final urban legend for West Virginia, we're going to be talking about the Lake Shawnee Amusement Park. Now, this is considered to be one of the most haunted places in America. I'm sure it's been, I didn't look this up, but I would assume, or I'm sure it's probably been on like something like Ghost Hunters or some sort of like paranormal investigator show. I have heard of this amusement park before. I didn't really know too much about it, but it is one of the most haunted places in America. So the land that Lake Shawnee Amusement Park is sitting on currently actually is the site of a very violent conflict that took place in the late 1700s. And basically for generations since this violent tragedy happened, locals have believed that the land has really never recovered from that tragedy. Now we're going to fast forward to 1920. This is when the amusement park was built on this land. And for decades, it actually brought in a lot of families from across the region. It had rides, games, it even had a swimming lake. So it was a very popular place for families to go for some entertainment, for some fun, for some amusement, if you will. But then over the years, a lot of tragic things were happening and started to happen. One of the more well-known stories involves a young girl who actually ended up passing away. She was on like a swing sort of ride, and a truck actually ended up backing into the ride. This unfortunately caused the young girl to pass away. There's another story of a young boy who ended up drowning in the swimming pool. And there have been different versions and accounts told of these stories over the years, of course, but the park's reputation for like tragic things happening grew each time people would discuss this. Obviously, each time a new tragedy would strike as well. Eventually, the park did end up closing, and today now there are still remnants of the park. There is a rusting Ferris wheel, there's still abandoned rides there, and then of course empty buildings. Due to all the tragedy that has happened on this property, many people do believe it to be extremely haunted, extremely dangerous, sinister, all of the, scary things. Ghost hunters have been going to this property and investigating for years, I believe both professionally and amateurs. And a lot of people who have gone there to explore report hearing children's laughter echoing through the empty park. They report hearing footsteps when no one is around or nearby, just like random footsteps and there's nobody there. People, of course, claim they've seen like shadow figures walking in and out of the rides or just like walking through the park. People have claimed they've seen lots of like ghostly apparitions, shadow figures, things out of the corner of their eye, feel like they're being watched. Even ghost hunters, paranormal investigators have gotten a lot of like unexplained voices on audio recordings and have, heard a lot of things like that when they're doing an actual investigation. They've picked up a lot of like voices and whisperings and things like that. And other people exploring have even claimed to see children playing or hearing children's laughter and then seeing them playing. And then when they look over, they disappear just like a second later. So it's not like it's a real child because, they can't disappear that quickly, obviously. This area was also investigated by archaeologists who were doing like excavation work, and they actually did uncover Native American artifacts. They discovered burial sites, and this really added to not only the area's like historical significance, but it really reinforced what the locals were saying, that the land, number one, carries a heavy past and does feel just like there is a dark energy around it. And now, just due to all this past tragedy, the discoveries that have been made and a lot of exploration that has gone on there, Lake Shawnee has become one of the country's most famous abandoned attractions. A lot of people go there A lot of people know about it. So that is it for today's Urban Legends by State video for the state of West Virginia. I really appreciate you guys watching. Sorry today we only had 3 topics. I did just want to devote a decent amount of time to the Mothman and the tragedy that happened there, kind of explaining all of that, and then still add another, of course, very well-known piece of folklore, urban legend, ghost story from the state. But like I said, we could do a whole dedicated Mothman video if you guys want to see that. I might have done one like years ago. I can't remember if I have or not. I may have, but I can always do an updated one or just more info on West Virginia. There's so many, well, for a lot of these states, but for West Virginia and like Connecticut and things like that specifically, there's so many urban legends and ghost stories and things like that that I could really deep dive into and do a dedicated video on of like a specific topic. I just don't know if you guys are interested in that or if you like more of like the short form of the story so that we can learn about more than one event per video. So that's why I say if you want to see a dedicated video on any of the topics, let me know. Of course, I want to make what you guys like to see. So that's going to be it for this video today. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I really enjoy doing these, and I'd love to hear what your favorite urban legend is overall and what your favorite one was in this video. Also, let me know what you think of the Mothman and if you've ever visited West Virginia, especially Point Pleasant, or really any of these places. But other than that, I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.